Whoa, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, get it in, man. Let's get it in. Another week, another episode of the show. We're coming up with names, but I need y'all to get in the comments. Let's get some interactions. What should we
Yeah.
call the show? Get in the comments, people. Let us know. Of course, I'm your host, the most big stepper, man, and I'm here with Unk Football. We're gonna talk about it. Let's talk about last week's games, bro. Let's
Oh my
talk about
goodness.
last week's games, man.
There were a
And
couple of interesting ones, that's for sure.
I'm telling you. And for
Mhm.
me, first and foremost, we got to talk about the most interesting one in my eyes is the Cowboys and Eagles, man. The Cowboys and Eagles potential game of the year. It didn't look like it, but over time it started to pick up, you know what I mean? And like we predicted, like we talked about, Philly won, right?
Yeah,
But what were your first thoughts about it? Because for me, I think the Philly exposed Cooper Rush as an actual backup,
right.
but
Yep.
it showed me how dominant Philadelphia's run game is. And
Hmm.
because they were destroying the Cowboys defense. I mean, I was like, God
Yep.
damn. What are your thoughts from the game, brother? Yeah.
Well, I was actually surprised that
Hmm.
Philly got out to 20-0. I mean,
Yeah.
and they won like what 26 with 26 points or something like that to win the whole game. So they basically had the game taken care of in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
And so whatever really happened in the second half was really just, they were taking their time,
Yes.
taking it easy, all that type of thing. And yes, the biggest thing that that game really showed was that Cooper Rush was at the end of his, he'd gone about as far as he was going to go with that thing.
Facts.
And I'm pretty sure we're going to see Dak coming in, I think this weekend. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, that was the biggest thing to me. And above and beyond that, they kind of exposed the Dallas D. We had all expected
Yes.
the Dallas D to sort of like really, kind of expose Philadelphia, but in fact, the opposite happened.
The exact opposite happened. And yes, like you mentioned before, Dak is confirmed to be coming in. He's coming in this week. But other games that kind of surprised me as a it's like a weekly thing, me as a Ravens
Oh,
fan,
there's
bro. It's like,
more. There were more surprising games from week 6 from
oh
last week.
my
Oh
God,
my
week
goodness! Holy
six.
crap!
Let's just go through it, man. My Ravens somehow again we find a way to blow leads. So we're up, we're beating the Giants 20, whatever. And in
Mm,
the fourth quarter, with about 5 minutes left, Daniel Jones puts up a drive. Saquon Barkley explodes on our defense, and then boom.
yep.
Wow. So
To me,
I just
to
frustrated,
me,
bro.
the Giants are they're getting great coaching right now
Yes, they are. I
because
agree.
they do not have, other than Barkley, they do not have a player of any real
No,
substance or significance.
no.
And yeah, and there's nothing crazy happening on defense either. It's just solid. It's just all solid coaching.
All
Brian
solid
Dable,
goals. I'm telling you, and
Brian Dable.
the adjustments they have in the second half of games. Because if you look at all the games they've won, they've always been super tight, and that's
I
a skill to win in the NFL with tight games.
Man, you told me about Dayball, and so I started to look into his whole resume.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, Dayball is really quite interesting if you watch him. He
Mhm.
starts off at the college level,
Yep.
and he does all those things that we were talking about last weekend with NFL coaches. And yeah, you can see that he wants to be an offensive coordinator. You can
Yep.
see where he's moved, I mean, he's been in and out of. He's been mostly in the NFL, but he's
Yes.
also gone back to college, where he wanted to be. He wanted to do the offensive coordinator thing,
Mhm.
but he's gone back and forth to the Patriots, working as like tight ends coach, quarterback coach, trying to get to that offensive coordinator position,
Yes.
which he's had a couple different times. But Mangione and other coaches he's worked with have you know he's got
Yeah.
fired with them.
Yeah, he
He's
has. He's been on some unsuccessful teams too. Yeah, I
and
can't
then
lie.
he finally gets into to Buffalo,
Buffalo,
working
yep.
as a solid offensive coordinator, and
Yes.
all of a sudden now, boom, his career takes off the way he wants it to. So yeah, I'm really impressed with Brian Dable. That guy really looks
Yes.
like a solid coach.
It's there's people paying their dues in the league, man. It's like
Right?
becoming a coach. We're gonna touch on this a bit later when we talk about Arizona and the Saints. Another trash Thursday night football game we're about to be subjected to. But guys who are paying their dues from college to the pro ranks, like coaches actually getting it in, And when we're talking about the Giants, we got to talk about the Jets too, man. Week
Yeah,
6, the Jets obliterating, crushing the Packers.
crazy.
Bruh, I wish I put money on this. We talk about odds and lines and everything like that, bro. The Jets, man. The 4-2 Jets. Maybe they're 5-2 right now. I don't know, but the Jets, brother. What are your
4-2,
thoughts about
man.
that game? Because I only watched the highlights. I didn't watch it live. What were you thinking of that game? A lot of underdog teams performed this week. Well, last week.
Well,
You know what I mean?
again, like, some fantastic performances and coaching took place with the Jets,
Yes.
right?
Yes, it did.
They went into Green Bay
Yeah. Lambo.
to go up against Rodgers, for heaven's sakes. I haven't seen a team go into Green Bay and
Yeah.
just spank Green Bay since Michael Vick did it in the playoffs for the first time, like, ever
Yep.
in playoff history. At that point, nobody had ever gone into Green Bay and won, and Michael Vick did it. Right.
Yeah.
So that was an astounding game. To me, this game was just as astounding. It was really
Mm.
amazing for me to see the Jets go in there and do
Yep.
what they did. And especially with Zach Wilson, like, his line was clean, but it was like 110 yards of passing or something like that.
Yep. Yep.
So once again, like Brees Hall
Brees Hall, he
was the
went
man
crazy.
who made it happen,
Oh yeah.
right? So once again, he was fantastic.
Mhm.
Um, Corey Davis was okay, right? There weren't a lot of yards to
There
begin
wasn't a
with
lot of air yards. It's like
to
I'm looking
catch.
at the stat line right now, and Zach Wilson only threw for 110 yards.
Yep.
Brees Hall had more
And
rushing yards. It felt like an old school football game. You know
it
what I mean?
really was. It really
Yeah.
was because there were 4 sacks by the Jets. Right?
Oh yes.
4 sacks, and I
Yes.
think,
They got
what's his name?
to
Quinton
Rodgers.
Hall or something like that had 2 of them.
Quinnen Williams, is that his name?
Quinton Williams, yeah, he had like
The big
he had a stupid
defense.
score as well too.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's true. He did have a scoop. They did have a defensive touchdown. You're right.
Yeah, so yeah,
Is
no,
the
the defense, the New York Jets, defensive special teams
Yeah,
went in there and shut down Rodgers.
yes.
And also, once again, what really amazes me is just simply that the Packers, for whatever reason, will not use their tailbacks. They will not
Yeah.
use Aaron Jones and Dylan the way they should, and everybody's talking about it. Everybody's saying, why are they not running more?
It's it's
Right?
not it's not a good look, man, because when you have two backs, Thunder and Lightning, you know what I mean? And you have Aaron Jones, who I think he's the second best player on the team. After Rodgers, I put Aaron Jones as the
Yeah,
second
yeah.
best
I,
player on
I
the team.
do not understand why they're not,
And he
using
only
him
had nine
more.
carries. Nine
Yep.
carries. And yeah,
Well, and then his passes were like a handful, right?
yeah.
And the guy is capable of giving you 100 plus yards rushing
Oh,
and at
yes.
least 50, 60 yards of receiving. That guy is like Brees Hall. They have their own Brees Hall and they're not using him. So don't ask me. I do not.
Hey,
A
man.
lot of people are asking why Green Bay is not doing more running,
And
because they
at
don't
that
have
point,
Devontae Adams. They
no.
do not have the usual assortment of wide receivers that Green Bay normally has to
Mhm.
help Rodgers. Rodgers is like, in fantasy, Rodgers is like a 23rd or 24th ranked quarterback. Like,
Yeah, he needs some
He's
help.
not he's not special at all this year, and he keeps trying to act as if, he is, and
Mm,
that he still has the usual guys and whatnot, and it's
yeah.
just not happening for him at all,
And you know
right?
what?
So,
We got to
like,
talk
3
about
and outs, all that type of
yeah.
stuff. even the defense isn't doing what we thought it was going to do. So there's a lot of problems with Green Bay right now, and we'll see what figures out. And in the meantime,
Yeah.
the Jets are absolutely looking like they're very well coached, very inspired. I expect them to. I expect them, and Vegas expects them to take care of the Broncos this weekend in an
Oh, yeah, they're
embarrassing
playing the
way.
Broncos. Yes. Yes, they are. Oh, well, I
And they
think we
came in. They came in as a 2.5 point favorite, and it's down to 1 point now. Because like
oh,
anybody who's betting does not think that the Broncos are going to win that game. Because you have to understand, there's like a
yeah.
baked in 2 point difference for being the home team, and the
True,
point and the
true.
line is now to the Broncos being favored by 1. So that basically
Wow.
tells you
You
that the
gotta give it up.
bettors are thinking that the Jets are absolutely going to win that game on the road again.
On the road, well, they're looking like road dogs, honestly. And you think about the Jets,
Yep.
man,
Well, they're
teams
just
in New
playing
York
clean
are
and
doing
efficient.
well. Playing
Clean and
efficient.
efficient.
Oh
Yep.
yeah. Oh yeah. And we'll say talk about somebody who's not playing very efficient. We got to talk about Brady, bruh. Brady and the I think you're happy. You're smiling ear to ear, man, because your
Well,
boy Mitch
it
came with the
was
Steelers. The Broncos, sorry, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they lost 18-20, and they had a chance to win it in the end. But the
yeah.
Steelers defense showed up, and
So
surprisingly, the Steelers offense, which is something that we had questions about,
yeah,
Mitch Trubisky coming in with
he was
clutch third
reapplying for his
downs.
job.
I was like, what's going on right now? I
he
was
was
shook.
he was reapplying for his job.
Basically, he probably got it right there. Get over
Yeah.
those third downs to Claypool. Clutch, man.
Well, you know
Clutch.
what? I actually looked at the line because I was trying to figure out what was
Yeah.
going on. So I looked at the box score,
Mm,
and basically what that box score came down to was somebody had to lose that game, somebody had to win that game
yeah.
because they both had almost the exact same stats. It was crazy. It was ridiculous. And
Mm,
the Steelers, though, between Pickett and Trubisky, I think they went 20 for 30. Somewhere around 200 yards, but they
yeah,
had a clean
around that.
sheet. They had
No
no
picks.
interceptions,
No
no
picks.
picks, right? So it was another one of those like
Who would have thought in the
game manager
NFL,
type of
no
games, but with two
turnovers?
guys.
You know what I'm saying? Who would have thought in the NFL, less turnovers equals wins? Who would have thought, bro? I'm being sarcastic, obviously. It's
Yeah,
all
yeah. I was
about
gonna say
turnovers.
Bill Belichick would have told you that.
Real talk. Talking about Bill Belichick. I don't know how much you want to go into deep into this one because I'm not a Patriots guy. I've never been a Patriots guy. I actually hate them. But they
Mhm.
spanked the Browns, man.
Yep.
Taylor Zappi was throwing some dimes. I didn't watch the game. I watched the highlights. Me, I just watched my Ravens game and then I just randomly pick and
Yeah,
choose
yeah.
sometimes. But
I, I'll
Taylor
just tell you this
Zappi
quickly.
playing really well.
I'll just tell you this quickly.
Yeah,
Matt Jones. It's so
Matt
funny. I
Jones.
heard somebody say this today that Matt Jones looks like Drew Bledsoe, and Zappy looks like
Like
Brady.
Brady.
Yeah,
Yes. That's a great comparison because Mac
yeah,
Jones, the highly drafted guy, Drew Bledsoe, obviously highly touted. And then this dude comes out of nowhere, fourth rounder, Taylor Zappi,
right.
throwing dimes.
His,
Just
the guy,
dealing. Just
the guy's
dealing that
getting a
thing, bro.
hundred. The guy's getting 100 QPR rating every time he plays.
It's
Like,
crazy. It's
yeah,
crazy. It's
yeah,
crazy.
very well, very well played by Zappy.
I will say this, man. We got to touch on this. Just one of the major talking points for this week in terms of football, even for me, right? Like for me, I'll say this. My opinion of Brady is very simple, right? Statistically and in terms of accomplishments, mostly accomplishments, he's the greatest quarterback of all time. But in my
Hmm.
personal list, I have other quarterbacks above him because of their leadership styles and just even their pure football quarterback skill. But we
Hmm.
got to talk about this. In the middle of the week, missing 2 practices, going to a whole wedding, looking turned up. I think he was on a Molly,
The
bro. I
preseason, he
think
did the
he was
same thing.
turning up.
He
And
did
with
the
the
same.
pre,
He did the same thing in preseason.
he
Yeah, he
did this,
does
and
not
then
look
he
committed.
screamed at his own players, man.
He
I think that's
doesn't
the
look
worst part. What do
he
you think
doesn't
about it,
look
Unc?
committed. He does not
Yeah,
look committed to
I
his
agree.
team right now. Yeah, he looks like he just kind of expects things to be a certain way, and if they're not, he just I just was shocked to find. Do you know who did not
Yeah.
go to Robert Kraft's wedding? Do you
Who?
know who didn't go?
Bill
Bill
Belichick.
Belichick. Like, he didn't even think about
Well,
it.
Bill Belichick was too busy beating up on the freaking
Beating
Browns or planning
being
up
an NFL coach with a game on the weekend.
being a professional.
Are you kidding me? What the hell
Yeah,
was Brady doing at that thing?
that was so goofy, man. And the
It
fact
was
that for me,
goofy.
what made it worse for me, bro, is that he was screaming at his old lineman in the middle of the game. Well, okay, you're an amazing quarterback, Hall of Famer, but bro, you weren't even at practice. Well,
Yep.
you weren't
Well,
at practice.
well, I
Like,
mean,
come on. How can you
well,
scream at us?
I'm
Anyways,
I'm telling you, I mean, he's an old man. He's 45 years old, and if
yeah,
he went out and partied, like really partied
I think he
that
did.
night, like he might feel entitled to do,
Yeah.
it wouldn't surprise me at all if he felt like dehydrated and frustrated and all that type of stuff the next day, because that's
Yeah.
what happens when you go out to a wedding the night before you go to work.
I mean, bro, imagine you. Okay, look, for me, I work Monday mornings, right? I'm not partying Sunday night, man. Why?
Okay,
Because I want to be ready and focused Monday morning. I need a good night's sleep, bro. Like, I want to be, ready
like,
for work,
well, I mean, you're gonna go play an NFL game the
you
next
know?
day after like I'm sorry, but I
And then look out, the Falcons are coming for that division low key. So it's like, bro, what are you doing? You're jeopardizing you know what it is? He's become entitled. You know what I mean?
very
He's
very
tired. He
entitled.
thinks he's the man 24/7 all the time. Now, you are the man, but you have to also be a team player. It's a
Yeah.
team sport, bro.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you
You
have
know?
to, yeah, you
Oh,
have to, you have to maintain. If you want to be the man, you have to maintain certain disciplines.
yes.
And he does not look like he is
No,
disciplined like that right now.
not at all, man. And I want to just transition into this, honestly. Talking about discipline, right? We got to talk about, you know, the big game of the week, mostly. At least for me, I think this might have even trumped the Cowboy Philly game. Bills and Chiefs. We're talking
Yeah,
about a potential
AFC
AFC
Championship game.
Conference Finals Championship, a little preview, right?
Yeah,
But I will tell you this: these two guys are committed. Mahomes and Josh Allen are committed because they were
wow.
battling it out for real. I really enjoyed this game, and usually we always say it comes down to the last quarterback with the ball. When it comes to these two guys, the last quarterback with the ball usually is probably going to win. But this instant kind of flipped because the Buffalo's defense
Yep,
came and did some work. It had Mahomes
yep.
worried, got some sacks on him. They got 2 picks. Like, Mahomes did not have a Mahomes type of game. Josh
Well,
Allen did his thing. What do you think, Unc? What do you think
well, what
of this
the
potential
again, if you
preview, man?
again, if you look at the box score on that game,
Yep,
the difference was, the Buffalo defense turnovers, because that
absolutely.
game was so tight. Offensively, both players were doing
Mhm.
very, very well.
Yep,
And in the end, it was ultimately Buffalo's defense and special teams
it
that
was.
got those two turnovers, because that was the only real difference in the game. That was a fantastic
It
game,
was a
not
good
nearly as
game.
high scoring as we thought it was going to be,
No.
but my goodness, that was certainly by far the most entertaining game of the weekend.
It was definitely the most entertaining game of the weekend, and I really like how Josh Allen literally hopped over a defender. That was kind of cool. He
Oh,
just
hey,
hurdled him.
he's gonna have that on a T-shirt
Yeah, he's
by
gonna have that
next
on a
weekend,
t-shirt.
and he better. That's gonna be his meme for the
Yeah,
rest of the
definitely.
season.
Man, and you know what? We've been talking
Fantastic.
fantastic. We've been talking about, some a theme in our podcast I've noticed has been about defense, man. We've talked a
Yeah.
lot about defense. And I don't know about this, Uncle. Maybe you can give me some football history, right? Have we seen as many low scoring games, especially in prime time, as we've seen in this season? Why do I ask that? I don't know why, but apparently the Broncos play at every primetime game. They played Monday night versus the Chargers. No touchdowns. Right?
Yep.
Well,
Um,
actually one touchdown by Russ, but a ton of field goals. You know what I mean? But
early in
is there like a thing happening now where the defenses are outplaying the offenses? Because we don't see a lot of like 30-40 games or
Yeah,
40-50 games unless you're the Lions and
right.
you lose. You know what I mean?
Usually, well, what often happens in the NFL over decades is that you sometimes get one side gets leverage over the other.
Yes.
And what often like what we saw in the early 90s, for example, again, was a time when defenses
Mhm.
were coming up over offenses.
Right.
And this is a time when guys like Bill Parcells
Yeah.
were doing their things in the early to late 80s.
Right.
Um, right? So, pardon me, into the late, pardon me, 80s, I should say. And so what you saw was there were some times where you had like really strong defense and running backs and whatnot,
Right.
and then after that you started to see again another great quarterback class, guys like Jim Kelly and whatnot were starting to
Mhm.
come in to do their thing in Buffalo, and you just started to see more Montana, of course, was doing
Right.
doing his thing later on, right? Because if you look at Montana and his numbers early in his career, like they're not
Crazy.
fantastic, right? You're talking about like 2,500, 2,800 yards, like nothing really spectacular. But
Uh-huh.
later on into further on into the 90s,
Mhm.
you started to see more and more offense start to develop.
Yes.
You know, even with guys like Parcells doing their thing on defense.
Mhm.
So later on, as offenses started to change, later into the later '90s, into the early 2000s, you just started to see more passes. More quarterbacks being protected, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So you go through this in cycles. And right now, I think what we're having, as much as the NFL would like,
Mhm.
more and more pass yards to be going and more, games with 30 plus points.
Yeah.
But we have talked about this narrative for a while. And this is
We
the
have.
narrative they're actually starting to talk in the NFL this year,
Yeah.
is that defenses are still leveraged over offenses,
Yeah.
despite a couple of games that we've seen, like Geno Smith and the Seahawks and whatnot. But for the most part, defenses are on top of offense right now.
Yeah, man. As a defensive guy, I like seeing that, but I also like seeing touchdowns. I like seeing big offense. But the fact it remains, I'm just looking at the stats right now. There's only, I think, two, no, actually three teams that went over 30 points last week. That's the
Hmm.
Bengals, the Patriots, and the Colts.
Yep.
Every other game was in between, you know what I'm saying, the less than 20 points, less than 30 points. My bad. And
Yep.
I think that's what's happening in the trends. Like we're talking about how, you know, defenses are dominating right now, and offenses are not catching up. Goes back
No.
to something that even Brady said a while ago. Are we seeing quality football? We talked about, we're early on these things, man. We talk about these things early. Our
Yeah.
offenses, are we having trash football, right? And I want to
And
get
just
to a
mediocre quarterbacks.
mediocre quarterback play. That's what I'm
Hmm.
saying. And when we
Yep.
talk about MVP, right? Because we pretty much know that MVP is a quarterback award, right? We're looking at MVP ladder that's been up and down. My guy Lamar Jackson obviously has been going down with late game fumbles, interceptions. Not a good look. We
Yep.
have Josh Allen, who's obviously number one right now, faced the number two guy who we talked about, Mahomes, beat him. So you must think, is Jalen Hurts? Is it going to be a Jalen Hurts versus Josh Allen award? Because these are the two best teams in football, bro. It's
Yep.
interchangeable. It's Buffalo or Philly. Is it going to be a Jalen Hurts versus Josh Allen type of award, or do you see somebody sneaking in, getting in there, or anything like that, bro? What do you think? What do you think, Coach?
Well, yeah, no, I was looking at the numbers again on the quarterbacks just from our Yahoo metrics from our
Right.
league.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you still have Josh Allen, who is significantly a good 20 points above Lamar, and
Yeah.
Lamar's coming down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Hurts is now just like 4 points behind him, so basically
Okay.
they're having the identical weeks week to week.
Yeah.
And Mahomes is right behind Hurts, and he's been coming on.
Mhm.
So those guys right there, and then the next level after that,
Yeah.
just a little bit, maybe like 15 points behind, maybe
Mhm.
13 points behind Mahomes is Burrows. But
Oh.
after those guys, after those five guys, Like Murray, Geno Smith, Herbert, even Wentz is still in the top 10.
Stop this, man.
He's tied with Cousins, right?
Bro.
So like that's your top 10 right there.
Yeah.
And Allen, Jackson, Hurts, and Mahomes, and to a certain degree, Burrows. Those are your main five quarterbacks right there. And Jackson, I see continuing to have some problems because
Yeah.
Mark Andrews got like 75% of his the the
The
few
passes.
receiving
Yeah, you're right.
yards
You're
that
right.
were out there.
Yeah.
He was the only guy. So yeah, the way I'm looking at Lamar Jackson, because the same thing again happened in the box score where they got figured out
Yes.
in the first half. So
It's
again, they're
yeah.
not producing in the second half of games, and so they're basically like putting most of their offense into the first half, and you're seeing like
That's
half pint numbers, right?
that's what happens, bro. Like literally what's happening is Lamar only trusts uh Mark Andrews, right?
Yep.
Because of the receiving core is so weak. And on top of that, what's happening is the coaches, specifically John Harbaugh, you know what I'm saying, not making adjustments in the second half.
Yeah.
Because then
Yeah.
you're forcing Lamar or you're putting schemes. Greg Roman is our offensive coordinator. He's putting in schemes to force Lamar to do too much when you have a running back like J.K. Dobbins right there. I really like the fact that they had Kenyon Drake, who was actually
Yeah.
running the
Yeah.
ball
Because
consistently.
Dobbins' knee is not right.
Yeah, Dobbins' knee is not right, but at the same time, I'm like, okay, can you maybe incorporate him, use him maybe as a decoy because Dobbins is getting wasted, and you know what? That leads me to what we got to talk about. Let's talk about fantasy wise, bro. I dropped Dobbins this week. I'm like, I'm done. I was wishing Kenyon Drake is a good pickup. We talked about Brees.
Yeah, I picked him up.
Oh, I know, smart. I know. I was like, damn. But in my other leagues, I picked him up. But Kenyon Drake is looking like RB1 right now for the Ravens.
Well, there's nobody else back there. I mean, Gus is
Nobody.
supposed to come back at one point, but I mean,
Gus
yeah,
Edwards is supposed to come back. A lot of guys are supposed to show up on the Ravens offense that are not. And you have Lamar, unless Lamar goes on God mode every week, you
yep.
know,
And he can't. He
and
just can't keep doing that.
he can't be Superman all the time. Unc,
Yep.
what do you think in terms of fantasy players, right? You mentioned quarterbacks, how they're looking. Joe Burrow is doing very, very well because he loves just launching that ball up to Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, and guys
Yeah.
like this.
Yeah. No, and I
Um,
expect good things from Chase this weekend.
oh, Chase is gonna kill it. Who are they playing against? Let me just confirm this. They're playing the Falcons, and the Falcons really have
Yep.
a very weak passing defense, right?
Yep.
Who do you like this week in terms of starts, sits, and fantasy? Bust booms. We talked about a lot of guys. Who are you liking in fantasy right now? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, no, this weekend is going to
Mm.
be kind of weird because we're getting a lot of
Buys, right?
yeah, we got a lot
Bye
of
week.
bye weeks this
Yeah.
week. The biggest guy I'm looking forward to, that I'm really kind of curious in fantasy for starts this weekend is probably going to be DeAndre Swift and
Oh
Amon St.
yes,
Ron, right? Both of those guys, and we're
yeah.
expecting them to come back. So I'm expecting to see some good stuff there. Now they're playing against Dallas, so they're probably
Oh
going to lose.
yeah.
But I'm hoping it's going to be another one of these like 38-35 games or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So I'm expecting good stuff to come out of Detroit again this weekend.
Agree.
Other guys, I'm starting to see Eckler do really well too.
Oh yeah.
In the
Yeah.
backfield. The other guy that nobody's talking about, but he's actually doing really well, is Christian McCaffrey. Like it's a terrible,
Oh,
terrible team, but he's the only guy who's playing. Right, he's still like the fourth or fifth ranked running back.
right.
Right, so he's pretty funny. I expect is it Drake London? I
Drake
believe
London, yes,
he's
he's
starting to look. He's
for
starting to get a
Atlanta.
lot of targets. I'm
Yeah.
expecting him to come up and do pretty well.
Mm,
So I'm expecting to see some stuff like that. I was kind of looking at some trades and different things like that. So let me take a look at some of the things that we had going here.
yeah,
Gallup, I'm thinking another Denver player. I'm expecting to come up and look really
Gallup
well.
should be do good. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
like him. I like him.
Jonathan Taylor is supposed to be coming back soon, so we're
Yes, he's
expecting him.
I was checking his injury report. He looks like he was back this week, so I'm happy about
Yep.
that.
Yep. So I
Mhm,
think he's going to be looking pretty well right there.
mhm.
I'm expecting to see Amari Cooper start doing better.
Okay.
He's been starting. Yeah, he's been creeping up towards the top 10.
Yeah.
He's actually starting to come around a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, One of the guys that nobody's talking about too much is let's see here is pardon me, not Chase, pardon me, not Chase, but
T. Higgins or
T. Higgins.
T.
Yeah, T.
Higgins on the
Higgins is the
Bengals.
guy.
Yeah, he's a
He's
gem.
been
I have
injured
him.
a little bit, and I
Yeah,
keep expecting that guy to really help Burrows do well.
he should.
Yeah, and that's a
We're,
shame because he's on my team. I can't believe I stumbled on his name, but yeah, no,
okay, okay.
he's been him and Jamar Chase are a
Yeah.
fantastic pair, and Tyler Boyd I think is also in
Tyler
there,
Boyd is
and
there too. These are
Hundley,
the best
yeah,
receiving corps in the league.
I really
They're the
think
best
that
group.
Cincinnati is going to start getting over their Super Bowl hangover in a way that they have not.
Mhm.
Right. One of the people who are not doing well is the LA
Yeah.
backfield. Henderson is just trash. Is terrible. Cam Akers.
Yeah.
They look like they need to trade for a running back badly. And in fact, actually, if I were if I were the Panthers, I would probably. I mean, it hurts
Oh
them so
yeah.
but they should trade CMC
For
to
some
LA.
picks, or something because
They could probably get like a half a dozen picks at
they
least,
could get a shit ton because CMC would change that entire offense. You won't have Stafford running for his life all the time when you can do a
right?
quick dump off to McCaffrey, bro. Like honestly, bro. Yes.
Because I mean, because LA's got a terrible offensive line, but so do the Panthers, and
Oh yeah.
CMC still managing to do it. So I just
Yeah.
there's a guy right there that nobody thinks is because the team is so terrible, but CMC
So
is actually
bad.
really good.
Yes.
And on the other side of that, of course, we have the Panthers receivers, which are just
All of the
brutal, just
receivers, bench them,
absolutely
get rid of
terrible.
them.
Think all of them. They are just absolutely terrible.
Pathetic.
So yeah, those are some of the players that I'm thinking of. Brees Hall, of course, again is
Brees
just a
Hall's will always start.
absolutely fantastic
I wish I
stud of a
still did
player, right?
that.
Yeah, he's looking really, really good right now for sure.
I'll probably sit if I had the choice of sitting, I'd sit Garrett Wilson off the Jets as well because it looks like what the Jets are focusing on, like we just talked about, is a power running game with a
Yeah,
solid defense. So there
big
won't be a
time.
lot of targets. And it looks like
Walker
Yeah, the
or
Corey guy on the Jets, he looks like their wide receiver one. So I'd sit
Corey
down
Davis,
Garrett
pardon
Wilson.
me.
I would also sit down, like it's gonna hurt, man, but guys like Alvin Kamara, he's not been doing too great. He's been disappointing, you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
somebody I would start is DeAndre Hopkins tonight, personally, and I'll tell you why. Even
yeah,
Robbie Anderson, I would start tonight. Why? Because these guys are going to get a lot of targets from Kyler. I don't think Kyler is going to be out there in the pocket running around trying to know. I think he's just going to launch that ball to DeAndre because he's finally coming back off his suspension. And I think Robbie Anderson as a vertical target, that's
yeah.
somebody that could get you a lot of points.
Robbie Anderson actually has been one of
Mm.
my. I'm not expecting a lot from him, but
Oh,
Robbie
fair,
Anderson
fair.
over the last 5 years has been one of my favorite vertical targets.
Very huge.
For
Yes.
he's boomer bust, but
Mhm.
like that guy'll drop 70 yards and a touchdown on you in a heartbeat. With
Absolutely.
40 yards after the catch, but he'll catch it like 25 or 30 yards downfield. Like he's really, really an amazing downfield guy.
He's a real
Um,
big vertical threat for sure.
I'm not
Mhm.
sure he's all together right now, or
Yeah.
whether he's just pissed off at the Panthers, right? Like he's
Yeah,
just
you saw
upset.
that blow up on the sideline. They kicked him out.
Yeah. Well, he just went right at the coach.
All
The
right,
coach
just
was
like
just like, trade him, get him out of here, right? But I think he's in. I think Robbie Anderson is in a fantastic position
with the
to
Cardinals,
maybe really
Yeah.
do something, right?
Yeah.
Because at one time on a terrible Jets team, he used to be the kind of guy who would get you, like a lot, like 800 yards and like 6 or 8 touchdowns. Like the guy really, like
Ton of
every other
yards,
week,
bro.
you could count on the guy for something really long and downfield.
Yes.
So, but the biggest thing is it is, is with Kyler Murray finally getting himself
Kyler
a
Murray
fantastic,
finally
getting
getting some
getting
help.
Hopkins back. Yeah, I
Yeah.
absolutely expect Kyler Murray because
He's
Kyler
gonna
Murray's
have a
still
game today.
hanging in, right? For
Yeah.
all his troubles, that guy's still the fifth ranked quarterback right behind Burrows. He's in the next tier behind Burrows.
I'm telling you. And the thing is, think about that offense, bro. Like it does not look that crazy explosive. It's Kyler Murray by himself. Maybe you'll have Hollywood Brown get a few
He's
targets to help him
injured.
out, but he's injured.
Yeah,
Exactly. And that's why I think they really forced the Robbie Anderson deal because they need some help. So for me, I would start
yeah,
him. If he's available, I would start Hopkins. If he's in your league and you haven't and somehow he's available, scoop him.
yeah.
I would also start Brandon Ayuk, that receiver from the 49ers. He got a lot of targets from Jimmy Garoppolo last week, and I got 2 TDs. And it looks like, between Ayuk and Kittle, that looks like Jimmy's go-to guys. Debo,
Yep.
of course, is going to get his touches, but look out for those guys. In my point of view, in terms of starting and sitting in fantasy, there's a lot, man. There's a lot,
They
and it's going to be a very interesting week, man. I'm very
They
excited for
they
this week
they
in fantasy
well, San Francisco had a crazy week against, Atlanta.
against Atlanta.
I
They
mean,
lost.
I
Yeah,
did
it's
not
wild.
expect to see that coming, but the thing is I didn't
Nobody did.
realize that I think something like 8 out of 11, Atlanta defensive starters were out that weekend,
Oh
so
shit.
yeah, yeah, but Mariota was very, very efficient.
Yes, he was.
Yeah, yeah, and he got a lot, done on with his legs as well. But how they managed to get 28 points out of that, like again, another sub 200 passing, like Mariota did not like.
He was not
So
slinging that ball. No, he wasn't.
their defense came through with them on again, but I was just
Yeah.
really surprised. That was the shocker for me. The upset of the weekend was Atlanta, and yeah, this weekend here again. I think what is that? I think they have the Chargers or something like that this
Oh,
weekend.
they're playing a big time team. I'm just gonna take a quick look at the schedule, but Atlanta is a sneaky team, man.
Pardon me, Seattle's at the Chargers,
Oh, okay.
and yeah, and who else do we have here?
Atlanta's
Let's see.
playing Cincinnati. They're playing the Bengals. Yeah, they're playing
Atlanta's
the
playing
Bengals.
at Cincinnati. That's right.
Yeah,
And LA, I think, is off this week.
LA should be off.
Like
Yeah,
the Rams, I think, are off this weekend.
yeah. The Chargers are playing this week, though. Yeah.
Right, right. And Kansas City is at San Francisco this weekend. That's going to be the fun one.
Oh, I think
So
that's
we're
gonna be
going to
good.
see whether San Francisco's D can hold up against Mahomes. That's what we're looking at this
Oh,
weekend.
I think that's gonna
So
be interesting.
that'll be very interesting right there. And yeah, Ayuk went off last weekend.
Crazy.
Ayuk looked really good. A lot of people are saying though that actually he's a trade high target right now though,
Oh,
because Debo is still sort of dominated on that thing,
yeah.
and that Ayuk hasn't really. I mean, it's what we expect from Ayuk, like every 2 or 3 weekends to have a
A
weekend
big
like
game.
that, but we haven't really seen it as yet this year. So some people are thinking that maybe it might be like a good time to trade him because he's at a higher value than he probably will be at the rest of the season. We'll see.
Mm,
We'll see.
we'll
But I
see.
like
Yeah.
Ayuk. I liked him last year as well too.
Yeah.
So I think Debo and Ayuk make if Jimmy's doing okay, right? He's not,
If he's on point, if he's not throwing picks, if he's not throwing to the
yeah,
opposition, then he'll
yeah,
find them targets. But as I say, you put him as a wide receiver 3 or what, like a flex. I'd probably have him as a flex, just low risk, you know what I mean? Or maybe like who knows, right?
yeah.
For me, I'm just thinking like some out of the box guys that are coming to my mind in terms of how they've been performing. But we got to talk about, some lines, man, some overs, some unders, how things are looking. Unc, do you have any ideas or for week 7? What should people look out for?
Sure.
And talk to me, man. Talk to me, brother.
Right. Well, the that Atlanta Cincinnati game, that one
Yeah.
comes up to me right away. Number one, because Atlanta is remarkably 6-0 against the spread so far this year.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, yeah,
Wow. Okay.
and they're
Yeah, it seems like my man might have froze up. You know what I mean?
It's
Uh,
Atlanta. My guess is that Cincinnati will win, but
okay.
they could easily, win by 10 or 14 or whatever. But they could just as easily
They could just
win
as
by just
easily
3 or
lose.
4 or
Bengals have
5
been
points.
inconsistent.
Like the way Atlanta has been playing and the
Yeah.
way yeah, Cincinnati's been playing, I would easily see ATL possibly going to 7-0 against the spread this week. So
Oh, that'd be
that's one I'm
crazy.
thinking of. Also, too, the Giants are playing at Jacksonville this weekend.
Jacksonville, yeah.
And Jacksonville gives up a ton of points. I'm
Tons.
actually surprised that
Tons.
Jacksonville is showing as a 3-point favorite. That makes no sense to me.
It makes no sense either. I don't know. The
Yeah.
Giants would be favorite in this one. I
And
don't
and
know
so
how.
I'm expecting Barkley to have a monster day.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then Jones again playing clean,
Mm.
and Dayball coaching the way he does. So I absolutely expect that to be an underdog game, a road dog game for the Giants.
Yeah.
The other one that's interesting too is the Chargers, that Seattle Chargers game, plus or minus 53 points. So again, it's going to be a ton of
Oh,
points, right?
ton.
Um,
I agree.
and, and Seattle, that line opened up at 7.5, and it's now at 4.5. So again,
Yeah.
Seattle is expected to make a game of this,
Oh,
right? So
yeah.
anytime you see the line move like that, you got to be kind of like,
You gotta think, should
yeah,
we have some
yeah,
action on that?
yeah, that's going to be a kind of an interesting one. Um, Now, the other one that's interesting too that's terrible. Again, I don't believe in it. The Tampa Bay line. Tampa Bay started at
I'm
nine and
looking
a
at it.
half
Yeah.
against Carolina on the road against Carolina, and it's now gone to 11.
Yeah, it's 10.5 or 11
And they're
now.
only expecting a 41 plus or minus. So it's basically like, if not if not now, when? Like, when
Yeah.
is, like, Brady and Tampa Bay gonna cover a big spread like that? If not against the Panthers this weekend,
Have they
but
covered any of their other spreads in the past or
I
like
wouldn't put my rent money on that
no,
line.
bro,
No.
nah, the way that offense looks, fuck no.
Um,
No.
Also, too, what's the other one too? Is Chicago at New England? I think that one's gone from 6 to 8.5.
Okay.
Um,
I don't
yeah, yeah,
know.
yeah. I think New England should probably
Walk
at
away with
least
this.
cover that. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure because they're looking really, really strong right now. Their defense and their offense, just everything looks like it's dialed in New England right now. So
And that's what I've
good
always thought.
coaching,
I've always
good
thought that
coaching.
Bill Belichick would win that divorce between him and Brady because that coaching is hard to leave, man. And yes, Brady has won a ring already, but I think Belichick has one more ring in him too, man, because he's putting
Yeah.
up
Well,
an
at the end of the
amazing
day,
defense. And with Zappy, the Zappy kid, he can sling it, man. And if you
well,
have that, of course, Belichick's gonna have a defense. That's what he's
It's
known for.
it's the
But
same
bruh,
model as 2001 happening
exactly.
again this year. I absolutely believe that. Well, again, we talked about coaching, and
Always,
so if
bro.
you're going to talk about coaching and how there's a deficiency in coaching
Hmm.
in the NFL, we know one place where there is no deficiency in coaching. Right?
Basically.
Andy Reid, Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll. We talked
Yeah,
about this.
yeah.
Um, you know, oh, Brady's one man.
Brady's one man.
One man of 53. As impressive as he is, he's
Yeah.
still at the end of the day one guy, and Belichick controls 53 guys.
And Belichick controls that whole franchise. That's the crazy part. His owner.
Right,
Think about this: like the owner, the guy who clears your checks. He's having a
right,
birthday party. Like, fuck no, I'm gonna work on schemes. I'm gonna
right,
prepare for the Browns.
right.
Like, that's gangster
Oh
in a
my
way.
God!
That's like
Yeah.
commitment, bro. Like, and he's 70 years old. He's a 7-year-old
Right.
man. You'd think he'd go party, but he's
And
not.
there was a funny thing too that happened. There
Yeah.
was an anecdote over the weekend too, where some rookie kid, I think, had a
Oh yeah, I
fantastic
gave him the
football
football,
play,
right?
and he tried to bring the ball over to Belichick, and
He'd be like,
Belichick's like, Like, what,
What is
dude, I've
this?
been here before, man.
I've been an NFL coach since the 80s with Lawrence Taylor, man. I've seen some
Right,
shit.
like some 22-year-old kid's gonna bring me the, the ball after the play. It's like, dude, you know how many balls are in my basement?
Yeah,
Right?
you know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I got hella balls. Crazy.
Yeah,
I will
right.
say this
So,
in terms of the games next week, man. Let's do our little preview. We're not gonna go through every single game. We don't have that type of time. But I
right.
will say a game that really interests me, bro, is this Green Bay and Washington game. The line is they're obviously got Green Bay. It's 4.5, right? Looking like in Green Bay's favor. But I think that this is going to be a little more competitive. Why? Because Carson Wentz is
Green Bay
gone.
sucks.
And well, yeah, exactly. Green Bay
They're gonna
also
play
sucks.
down to their competition.
Bro, yes,
Because I thought
I think so.
last week was going to be their comeback game, and they
Mm,
didn't.
they
So there's
didn't,
no guarantees. And again,
man.
it's like, and Green Bay's in an over under game of like less than 40, right? I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
like,
They only have like 4.5 points. Or like, bro, I'm telling you right now, man. The
Green
Washington
Bay looks
Commanders.
troublesome.
I
Yep.
think I think they because Carson's once is gone. They have Taylor Heineke coming in, and I'm gonna argue this: Taylor Heineke plays better than Carson Wentz. If we just look at in the recent work, I
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if
Well, he
Washington
had
does
that
the
really
upset. And I
fan.
think Green Bay is gonna keep when it rains, it pours. It's gonna rain. It's gonna pour, bro. I think Green Bay is gonna lose this
Well,
game. So that's just interesting to me. I'm gonna get my eyes on that one. I don't know.
Tyler Heineke is a fascinating guy. He's
Yeah,
another like fluty kind of guy,
yeah.
Mayfield kind of guy, whatever. He went to college at a place called Old Dominion in Virginia. And we used to have this, we actually used to have this fantasy college league in
Oh,
Yahoo. They got
okay.
rid of it years ago now. And Tyler Heineke, like all you had to do, because the league was just so simple, all you had to do was just go see who, which like, lower level college team was just having fantastic numbers, right? And
Yeah.
Taylor Heineke was that guy. He was this guy who, like in
Oh,
12 or
fam.
13 like college games, somehow managed to get like 4,500 yards. It's some crazy number,
Wow.
right? So yeah, you just got Tyler Heineke every weekend because, of course, he wasn't playing Ohio State or or any of these teams,
Yeah.
right? Right.
Yeah.
So he was like hilarious like that. So he's actually a guy. He was a guy who played like all 4 years of college and maybe a
Okay.
red shirt. Who knows, right? Just was just a fantastic pro style player. So
Oh.
that's why he was able to sort of like slide in there
Mhm.
and have that. What was it, 2021? I think it was. He played like
Yeah,
the
it
whole
was last
season.
year he
Yeah,
played the
played
whole
the whole
season
season.
because they didn't have a quarterback for
And
Washington. Yeah.
but he had 15 interceptions because
Yeah.
his eyes are bigger than his stomach when it comes to throwing downfield, just because he's one of these guys who just he loves to play, right? But he
Yeah.
got 20 touchdowns, right? He got 20 touchdowns in the 16 games, 15 picks. So not perfect, but I mean, we've seen worse than that.
We've seen way worse than that. And for me, why I say that's interesting to me is because a locker room energy changes when you
Yes,
have a
yes
new
it
guy
does.
sometimes. And we saw it with Cooper Rush until the Cinderella, the pumpkin, came out. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
we saw it happen with Cooper Rush because I don't think Dak would have get 1 out of 4 game winning streak. I doubt it. I doubt it. And I think Dak is just better overall than
Yeah.
Cooper Rush. And Taylor Heineke, I think
But
Green Bay is
everybody
playing
knows who
so
Dak
bad.
is, though. Everybody knows who Dak is, so that's
Exactly.
why Dak wouldn't have gone on a 4 game run necessarily, right? Because he didn't look that
Right.
great in the first game. But Cooper
No.
Rush was your game manager guy who nobody had any book on. And it
Right.
finally ran out, yeah, yeah.
They ran
Cinderella
out of,
ran out this weekend, right? But
you know what I'm
yes,
saying?
no, that is why it is possible sometimes to have these kind of weird runs. And
Yes.
but I think at the overall, I think Dak will, definitely,
Oh,
you know,
Dak is definitely the guy for Dallas for
yeah,
sure, for
yeah,
sure. And I personally think that game's interesting for me. The Green Bay versus Commanders. Another game
yeah.
that's interesting for sure though is the return of Tua, Miami versus Pittsburgh. This is going to be the
Ooh,
Sunday night
baby,
game.
yeah,
That's going
yeah,
to be a big one. I
yeah.
I don't know how to feel about that because they got Miami. Miami's up by a touchdown. Is favored by a touchdown. But at the same time, I'm thinking like, bro, if Mitch keeps doing what Mitch was doing, and Najee Harris actually shows up, because, bruh, I'm like this close to trading this motherfucker. If Najee actually shows up and that Pittsburgh offense starts rolling, I think Pittsburgh might do some work against Miami with Miami offense that looks very suspect, and even their defense looks suspect. It's night
Well,
and day from how we did our earlier podcast, brother. What do you
I
think of this
certainly
game?
I certainly hope the Steelers do it, right? But I don't expect that they will.
Oh,
I
damn. Okay.
absolutely believe. No, I'm in love with Tua right now for no other
Mm.
reason than we saw what happened when he went out on the
Oh,
injury list.
yes,
Right,
yes,
they
yes.
dropped to 3-3 mighty quickly, and
So
it
bad.
wasn't for like absolutely poor play, but it just
Mm.
wasn't nearly as good as what Tags was giving us. So I
Yeah.
really am starting to believe in Tags, and this is the great number. Let me tell you about the quarterback list
Let's
on
talk to me.
right. I mean, Tags is better than Tannehill, Rush, and Mayfield, even though he's been on
He's
on the
been gone
injury
for
list
like about 3 weeks.
for 3 weeks, right? So,
Wow.
yeah. So, I mean, and he's like 1 point behind Justin Fields,
I'm
right?
fucking dead.
So, yeah, sure,
He's a play
he had that big game against
versus
Baltimore,
Ravens.
but
Yeah.
he had some other stats in those first 3 games
Oh
too.
yeah.
So, yeah, no, I absolutely believe that Tags is the difference in Miami, and I think that with him coming back, they're going to go on a run again.
I honestly, I
And I
believe that
definitely
they're
think
gonna
they'll
go
take
around.
care of Pittsburgh. As
Oh,
much
you
as I
think they're
love
gonna take care of business?
much as I love my Steelers, I'm pretty sure that
Wait,
Miami's
this
going
is
to take
crazy.
care of
A
them.
Ravens fan is gonna go for the Steelers against another team when a Steeler
And
fan
I'm
is
going to
going
go again.
against
I'm
the
going to
Steelers.
go for Miami.
I'm with it. I guess we'll circle back to that next week. But
Yeah,
overall, it's a great slate of games, man. Man, I look at it like, bruh. Why? One thing I want to touch on before we finish off the podcast, right? And this
right.
might go back to our conversation that we had earlier about the level of defense is happening, right? What is going on with prime time games, bro? What is happening with these prime times, low scoring, barely any touchdown having ass games, brother? We got to talk about this. It's pissing me off, bro. You're looking at last week, bro.
You
We
know
had
who's
to watch 3 hours plus
you you
of the
know
Chargers Broncos.
you know who
Really, I was about to tear my hair out, my small hair. We had the Bears versus the goddamn, what was it? Some whatever lame ass Commanders. Actually, we just talked about that.
yeah.
Terrible game. We had the Colts versus the Broncos. Broncos are playing every primetime game apparently. It's so ugly. Why are
Mm,
this NFL slate of primetime games are looking so bad? When the Eagles and Cowboys played, I was actually surprised in a good way because we actually had a competitive game.
right.
What is happening, Unc? I
Well,
need
I'll
some
tell you
answers.
this
I need
much.
to go. I need to call Goodell or something like that. We got to call Nick. What is happening, bro? Move some things around.
You know who's calling Goodell? You
Oh,
know who's calling Goodell?
oh.
Jeff Bezos. He wants his money back.
Facts. Thursday night, bro. Oh my god.
Yeah, the Thursday night games have been particularly egregious.
Oh,
And yeah, we finally got ourselves a good, Dallas Philly game coming up
yeah.
because that's, good teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what to tell you, man. We've just been unlucky.
We've been very unlucky, man. But you
Yeah.
know what? We're gonna get lucky with this week, man. I just wanted to rant about that. I was pissed. I was
Yeah,
mad.
yeah. Like I said, Jeff Bezos is ranting. I'm pretty sure he
Oh,
paid $1
Jeff,
billion for for those Thursday night
for
games.
them
Yo,
rights, man. Imagine how pissed he is, man. Probably
right.
not so mad. He's a multi-billionaire. I would like some of them billions,
He'll be
Bezos.
okay.
Sponsor this podcast. Let's go.
He'll be
But I will
okay.
say it like this: we're gonna have a great week of football, Unc. Appreciate you, appreciate us, and I want y'all, like I said, viewers, get in the comments. Let us know a name. We're gonna come up
Like
with
and
a name.
like and
Like,
subscribe.
like and
Like and subscribe.
subscribe.
Right.
Yes, sir. Like and subscribe.
And
Share
yeah,
to your people. And Unc, any last words before we cut out, bro?
well, now, man, let's find ourselves a great tag for this podcast. Let's find something funky and
Yeah.
enjoy the games.
Yes, sir. Enjoy the games. When we out, man, the big broadcast with Big Step
All
and
right.
Unc. We out.
Peace out.
Deuces.